Hello viewers, welcome to this session on climate change and human health. I introduce myself as Dr. Sushmita Bhaskar from the School of Interdisciplinary and Transdisciplinary Studies, the discipline of Environmental Studies, Indira Gandhi National Open University. Often you might have seen when there are changes or variations in the weather and the climate, we fall ill. People would have noticed that we land up with viral flu, gastroenteritis, or the conjunctivitis and so on. So this session is going to deal about the linkages between climate change and human health. The objectives of after reading this module, you should be able to explain some concepts which are related to health, describe the linkages of weather and climate to human health, and explain the need for studying the climate impacts on health. Giving an introduction for this lecture, our environment provides us with so many of the natural resources, and these are very important for our survival as well as our livelihoods. And the earth species, whether it is plants, it is animals, all of us, we are interdependent on each other, and the ecosystem service functions of which the planet, this is driven by the climate stability. So everything, has linkages with the climate, the weather patterns, and all of us are interdependent. Health. So before we go on to the linkages between climate change and human health, it is very important to understand what is health. So basically we define health as the absence of any disease. But then later on, so many of the definitions have been going on with updates from the World Health Organization, where the psychosocial, the environmental factors, so the holistic approach is important for a good health of an individual, and it is very important and essential for life. Refers, especially if we actually have to define health, it refers to a complete emotional and physical well-being, that is the state of well-being. And then a good and active life, a good health, this is central for living a longer and active and healthy life. So health is directly related to the nature of the environment, the weather and the climate. So all these factors play a very important role for our survival and our livelihoods. Let us go on to the definition of health. The World Health Organization in July 1948, they have defined health as a state of complete physical, mental and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. As I said, there is a holistic approach to this. To this, there has been added another clause which includes the ability to lead a socially and economically productive life. So this defines health. Now, do you think there is a relationship between weather and health? So changes in the weather and the climate, they have influenced the health of human populations in the past, and because of this, several epidemics and pandemics also have been caused. So weather and the climate, they can affect the distribution of so many of the species on this planet, even the plant species. So you would have seen the insects, the mollusks, some of the snails, arthropod species, mosquitoes, all this will flourish in certain environments. Certain weather and climates are favorable for their breeding and for their survival. So these are also vectors for various diseases which are caused to the human beings. So recently, many people in Kerala and in South India, they were affected by the West Nile virus. And people complained of unexplained ailments, like they had joint pain, they had myalgia, they had headache, fever, body pain and so on. So this was noticed in several parts in Kerala, and especially in Malappuram district. A 7-year-old boy was infected, and that boy died because of this West Nile fever. So all this may be because of the unseasonal rainfall patterns and the flooding, stagnation of water in certain areas and so on. So these South Indian cities and states, they were infected by this West Nile virus, which is attributed, the scientists are saying that it could be attributed to the changing weather, and the vector-borne influences play an important role here. So this fever is mosquito-borne, they are the vectors for this viral disease, and it is a zoonotic disease because it is transmitted from the animals to the human beings, and it is caused by the flavivirus, that is the West Nile virus. This is a transmission cycle of the virus. So you can see that the mosquito and from the birds to the mosquitoes, and it goes from the mosquitoes back to the birds. So the host is the reservoir, birds are the birds. The reservoir or the host is basically the birds for this virus. And from them, the mosquito, whenever it takes a blood meal or it bites, then it is transmitted, and then when the mosquito, it bites, or it infects the human beings or even the horses, the equine breed. then we become the accidental host for this virus. So that is the life cycle and the transmission cycle of this West Nile virus. So in the same way, water quality also can be impacted, giving rise to the health problems. So we are observing the changes in the frequency and the severity of the weather and the climate phenomena. This can be seen as heavy rains, drought, extreme cold, hot temperatures also in different geographical regions. So all this can lead to new climate related health threat. Therefore, climate variability, this can pose new threats to human health in several ways. The impacts of climate change are already being witnessed, and this will further increase in the coming decades. It may also lead to several emerging infectious diseases, and this is a topic of concern which scientists and researchers are researching in their laboratories. So the influence of climate related phenomena, this depends on several factors such as exposure, vulnerability, sensitivity and also adaptability. Let us see what these terms mean. Vulnerability. This is a tendency or the predisposition to be adversely affected by climate related health effects, and it depends on the exposure, the sensitivity, susceptibility to harm and the capacity to adapt. In the same way, sensitivity. This refers to the extent that people or communities are affected by climate change. Exposure. This refers to the contact between a person and one or more biological, psychosocial, chemical or physical stressors. Exposure can be in a single moment or it can occur repeatedly. So it can also happen at one place or over geographical areas. Adaptive capacity. This refers to the capacity of people or communities to cope with and adjust themselves to the hazards and then respond accordingly. So what are the potential health impacts of climate change? So a change in the global climate, this will affect the normal functioning of the Earth's ecosystem, and some countries you are already seeing that they are experiencing extreme cold temperatures, while the people living in such areas, they would want the warmer temperatures or the climates. Now the WHO in its report on world health in the year 2002, they reported that the climate change induced 2.4% of diarrhea, 6% of malaria in the middle income countries, MICs. So these changes may be witnessed initially, and then there can be some changes in the seasonality of some infectious diseases. This also includes some vector-borne infectious agents like the malaria, the dengue fever, salmonellosis, and all this will strike during the warmer periods. Further, certain other viral outbreaks are also common during the higher temperatures. So some individuals and even the plant and animal species also, they can die due to the sudden climate variability. Some plant species, they are able to adapt to the different temperatures and even to the harsh climatic conditions. So it depends from the species to species, both in the case of animals as well as in the plant species. The potential impacts of climate change. Now this will disturb the ecosystems, that will again affect the food cycle and the food production. There can be agricultural and agrarian distress and social issues. The farmers will be upset with economic losses. There can be land degradation. There could be population displacements and also rising sea levels. Weather and the climate. Now let us relate this to the human exposure. So in order to understand the relationship between climate change and health, we need to understand the health impacts of various meteorological exposure. This includes the weather, climate variability and the climate change. Weather. So let us define weather. This is a constant change in the atmospheric conditions that occurs from minutes to weeks. Climate, this is taken over a period of several years, and that is the average state of the lower atmosphere, and it is related to the characteristics of the underlying land or water with respect to a particular region or area that will occur over a period of several years. Climate variability. This is referred to as the variation about the average climate, and it includes seasonal variation. It will also include the El Nino, the Southern Oscillation ENSO, or the Northern Atlantic Oscillation. Now all this are the large scale regional cycles in the atmospheric and the ocean circulations. Climate change occurs over the long time scales. That is what we are calculating and predicting. The most observed changes in the global climate, they have occurred due to the natural reasons such as continental drift, astronomical cycles, variations in the solar energy output and volcanic activities. Presently, human activities are responsible for bringing about the global climate change. the planet's natural climate. So before we understand why we are so much concerned about the anthropogenic influences in the climate change, we should also know about the Earth's natural climate. So the Earth's climate, it is influenced by a set of interactions between the Earth's suns, the ocean, atmospheric, cryosphere and land surface, and also the biosphere. The driving force for our planet's weather and the climate comes from solar energy or from the sun. So due to the uneven heating of the planet, the surface of the planet, there is a greater convection flow in the atmosphere and the ocean. This results in the formation of winds and also the ocean currents. Weather phenomena. So you know that we have the stratosphere, the troposphere, the mesosphere, the ionosphere, the thermosphere, the exosphere and so on, all the layers of the atmosphere. So the weather phenomena occurs in the troposphere. Ozone in the stratosphere, this absorbs the high UV rays emitted from the sun, and the earth receives the energy from the sun, which warms the earth's surface. So as this energy passes through the atmosphere, a certain percentage, approximately 30%, gets scattered, and some part is also reflected back into the atmosphere from the land and the ocean surface. The rest, approximately 70%, this remains to heat the earth, and in order to establish a balance, the earth must radiate some energy back into the atmosphere. So in this figure you can see the greenhouse effect, which is explained that some sunlight which is striking the earth, this is reflected back into space and the rest becomes heat, and the greenhouse gases will actually trap the heat and this warms the planet. Let us see this in the following slides. As the earth is much cooler than the sun, it does not emit energy as visible light, but it emits through the infrared or the thermal radiation. Certain gases in the atmosphere, these can they form a blanket or the blanketing effect around the earth, and they absorb some of this energy. So without this blanket effect, our earth would be 30 degrees colder. In this figure you can see the greenhouse effect, where some of the greenhouse gases, they trap the heat and they keep the planet warm. So that blanket which is surrounding that part of the earth, that is actually keeping the earth warm, and it is good for the people to live and for the plant and the animal species to survive. But the greenhouse gases, what are these greenhouse gases? These gases include carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide along with water vapor. They comprise less than 1% of the atmosphere. These are called the greenhouse gases. So let us see whether the human beings, the anthropogenic activities are releasing more and more of these greenhouse gases. So this trapping of this radiation, what I said, these heat, it is responsible for the increased temperatures, just like you are seeing inside a greenhouse panel where the plants are able to grow, where the heat is trapped. So this phenomenon is known as the greenhouse effect, and the process results in warming the air in the lower layers, leading to global warming. So this gas blanket, it has been in place ever since the formation of the earth. Together, due to this natural greenhouse effect, the earth's temperature is maintained to a present surface average of 33 degrees centigrade. Now human induced greenhouse emissions. In this figure you can see the carbon dioxide emissions go up to 76%, methane up to 16%, nitrous oxide 6%, and fluorinated gases comprise 2% which are released. So human activities are releasing more and more of these greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, and this is leading to this natural blanket getting thicker and thicker in the process, and it is upsetting the natural greenhouse effect and balance. So this resulting enhanced greenhouse effect is more commonly referred to as global warming or climate change. So the most important greenhouse gases are carbon dioxide, methane, chlorofluorocarbons, which are coming from the air conditioners, from the refrigerators, and also nitrous oxide. Some environmental impacts of climate change. So environmental impacts, they trigger the health impacts in particular regions or areas. A rise in temperature can lead to the following consequences. There could be a loss of biodiversity, a rapid loss in biodiversity. There could be a decline in the earth's precious natural resources. There could be a change in the rainfall and monsoon patterns, and there could be melting of the ice caps and also the glaciers. Increasing temperatures, they would cause thermal expansion of the oceans, and therefore the sea level will rise. So this will result in the floods in the very productive deltaic region. So you can see that even if there is a small increase, in the sea level rise, the coastal areas will go completely flooded and they can go under the sea. So sea level rise can result in the disappearance of many of the islands, for example in the Caribbean, in the Pacific, and also in the Indian Oceans. This can also result in the disruption of the marine ecosystems, and it can cause flooding in the coastal wetlands. India alone, we have a 7,500 long kilometer coastal line, and we will see that this will actually, a sea level rise will upset all these coastal areas and the coastal states. Further, it can also trigger the frequent storms in many of the regions where storms were never experienced before. Such climate change, this can induce floods and result in the spread of several infectious diseases. Finally, it can also cause groundwater contamination and pose a threat to human health. So, why is there a need for studying the climate impacts on health? Therefore, exposure is a most important factor for analyzing the impacts of climate change on human health. Weather and climate, they have to be studied over various spatial as well as the temporal scales. All the data which is related to the weather, the disease, it could be the health status, the land use patterns, climate variability, they are all required for assessing the human health statistics in a particular region. And such studies can help in addressing issues such as the spread of the vector-borne diseases such as chikungunya and also the dengue. Intergovernmental Panel on the Climate Change. So this is the international body for assessing the science related to climate change. This was set up in 1988 by the World Meteorological Organization and the United Nations Environment Programme to provide policymakers with regular assessment of the scientific basis of climate change, its impacts and future risk and options for mitigation and adaptation. This also provides a scientific basis for governments at all levels so that they can develop the climate related policies, and they underlie the negotiations at the UN Climate Conference, the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. Now, there have been several IPCC reports every few years, basically in 7 years, the IPCC produces the assessment reports, and they are the comprehensive scientific evaluation of the state of the Earth's climate. In this, there are 3 working groups which are dealing with the scientific basis for the climate change, likely impacts, vulnerabilities and adaptation issues, and the actions that can be taken to combat the climate change. So now in IPCC 2021, which came in August 2021, there are some key points which have to be noted. The average surface temperature. So the average surface temperature of the Earth, this will cross 1.5 degrees centigrade over pre-industrial levels in the next 20 years, and there will be a 2-degree rise by the middle of the century without sharp reduction of the emissions. The last decade was hotter than any period of time in the past 1,25,000 years. The global surface temperature also will be higher, and this was higher in the years between 2011 and 2020 than between the earlier times between 1850 and 1900. So this is the first time that the IPCC has said that the 1.5 degree centigrade warming was inevitable even in the best case scenario. In the same way, carbon dioxide concentrations have also gone up. There is 2,400 billion tons of CO2 have been emitted since the late 1800s. All this is attributed to the human activities, particularly the burning of the fossil fuels. So all this has increased the climate change, the Earth's climate at an unprecedented rate in 2000 years. The world has also depleted almost 86% of the available carbon budget. The impact of global warming, as we have already discussed, there will be a sea level rise, and this has tripled compared to the pre-industrial levels. The Arctic Sea is also lowest since 1971 in the 1000 years, and the coastal areas will see continued sea level rise throughout the 21st century. There will be severe flooding also in the low-lying regions. About 50% of the sea level rise is due to thermal expansion. Same way, precipitation and drought. There could be increase in heat extremes, extreme precipitation, drought, extreme heat extremes. So while the cold heats have actually increased, the cold extremes have actually decreased, and this will all continue in the Asian subcontinent. There is receding snow line and also the melting glaciers. So global warming will have a serious impact on the mountain ranges across the world. Therefore, we have to come to the net zero emissions. It means that all the man-made greenhouse gas emissions must be removed from the atmosphere through reduction measures, and thus it can reduce the Earth's net climate balance after removal through the natural and artificial sink to zero. This way, humankind would be carbon neutral and the global temperature would also stabilize. Let us end our lecture with a case study from the Great Smog of London, which happened in 1952. So there were the anthropogenic causes. On 5th December 1952, people were actually heating their homes due to the extreme cold. They were heating their homes with coal, and there was enormous emission of the smoke, soot and all this burnt particles, sulfur oxides. They were generated from the chimneys of their houses. And on 5th of December, the temperature went down to 1 degree and the humidity was around 80%. There was thick fog and the air near the ground was also moist. Usually the air close to the ground is warmer than the air above it, and therefore it rises. In this particular event, it resulted in the formation of a static layer of cooler air which remains close to the ground, which is an atmospheric phenomenon called as inversion, that is a temperature inversion. So in this figure you can see in the normal days and during a temperature inversion day how the factors change. So the accumulation of smoke close to the ground was so much that the sunlight was totally cut off, the air stayed cool and static. Enormous amount of all these emissions and tar and the gaseous sulfur oxide, they were trapped and in the fog. So fog and smoke that gave rise to smog, and that appeared as a yellowish, yellow-black in color. So from this also they got this acidic rain, the sulfur dioxide which reacted inside this foggy and the sooty droplets, they formed sulfuric acid and they produced intense acid rain. This is a figure which shows the number of deaths per day and the concentration of the smoke which happened in the days, that is from 1st of December to the 15th of December. You can see how much of the sulfur dioxide content has gone up, the smoke has gone up, and the number of death also increased in the following days. So the particulate matter 10, this concentration also was 56 times more than the normal levels, and sulfur dioxide was also 7 times more, 700 ppb. The health effects noticed, so people had pneumonia, bronchitis, tuberculosis, heart failure, asphyxiation, chest pain, inflammation of the lungs, damage to the respiratory cells, permanent lung damage, respiratory ailments, and also they had a susceptibility to cancer. Following this, London came up with the Clean Air Act of 1956. After this disastrous event, they came up with this act, and all the traditional coal fires and these plants, they were converted to heaters that were fueled by the gas, steam, the hot water, then the oil, smokeless coal and electricity. So dear learners, from this session we have understood that climate change is described as a great threat to humanity because of its irreversible impacts. Many of the impacts such as sea level rise and melting of the glaciers, this will continue for many years. There is a need therefore to reduce the carbon emissions drastically, given that the changes to the climate already made are not reversible. I hope you have understood the concepts clearly. Thank you for your patient listening.